question is question number 074 of 2020, directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of National Government. And it reads, could the Cabinet Secretary explain the status of investigation into a complaint raised by Truscent Media Group against Safaricom Limited for theft of copyright arising out of a tender floated by Safaricom Limited in 2016 for the provision of creative and digital services, launched with the Director of Criminal Investigation, DCI, via inquiry number 14 of 2021. Roman 2. Could the Cabinet Secretary further explain why DCI is unable to enforce its own summons against Safaricom Limited as contained in its letters dated 29th June 2021 and 15th July 2021? Roman 3. Could the Cabinet Secretary provide details of all the complaints filed with the police against Safaricom Limited regarding theft of copyrights, intellectual property rights, and other complaints? Lastly, Roman 4, what specific steps is the ministry taking to ensure that large corporations, in particular Safaricom Limited, comply with the existing laws and the ethical standards? Thank you, Chair.
Yes, Honorable CS, if you can respond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Honorable Sosi, for the question. There are 3 points to be made on this question, not in form of answer, Mr. Chairman. This is one of the questions where I would have liked actually to ask the indulgence of the committee to speak to the committee in camera because of the sensitivities involved in this. Number one, this is an ongoing investigation by the DCI. The number of people who have to be interviewed and record statements and the extent of the investigation is expansive and ongoing. To comment on an ongoing investigation in an open manner such as we are doing, quite frankly, is to be prejudicial to the whole process of investigation. Secondly, when you look at the institution that's involved and the implication of discussing, for example, Safaricom and its role and place in this economy, to discuss dimensions involving Safaricom in an open manner in this situation is also, again, prejudicial, not just to Safaricom as an institution, but to the place of that institution in the economy. Number 3, Mr. Chairman, I would need the guidance of the committee. Where do we draw a line between what you may call individual contracts between individuals and corporates and criminal acts? Because you see, when contracts are breached, which essentially are civil matters between the contracting entities, where does the law enforcement dimension of the executive branch come in? Because civil contracts or commercial contracts that assume a civil nature are such that we cannot necessarily step in unless we are invited by dint of criminality having been established. So, Mr. Chairman, I would like to request you kindly, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, I am able to discuss this question and its response in some level of detail if you grant me an in-camera opportunity. Or B, you allow me, Mr. Chairman, then to request guidance from the Office of the Attorney General and the National Security Council to discuss dimensions of this which are very sensitive, as it were. And this is not just to Safaricom, as it were. It's a question of the corporates that were involved and the number of companies and institutions that have made investments in Kenya. If they get into a problem as a result of commercial contracts or contracts of a civil nature, if we go open and discuss each contract and dimensions of it and so on, I think as a public servant and you as the people's representatives, we have to be conscious of the implications of this in the long run. So suffice it to say, Mr. Chairman, with your very kind indulgence, that A, the investigations are going on. B, DCI is not reluctant or has not failed to enforce any of its summons. The number of people have to be interviewed and the statements taken in this kind of investigation is expansive. It will take time for it to be completed. And when it's completed, the DCI, in consultation with the DPP, will make a decision on which way to go. Until then, Mr. Chairman, I will need your guidance. Am I allowed to actually comment or make sideline commentaries on an ongoing investigation of a sensitive nature like this?
Now, three things arise. One, the fact that this investigation from DCI, which the question is speaking to, in terms of what is the status and which DCI rightfully falls under your docket, and that gives it then live in terms of being before this committee. Two, the Honorable Speaker has approved this question. Its nature means then it has to be responded to, and therefore three, if you need to speak to the matters in camera, that can be granted.
I'm ready to make the presentation in camera, Mr. Chairman, on this matter. And then even then, I'll still seek your guidance on where do we draw a line on the question I asked between commercial contracts of a civil nature and when they are broken or when they go wrong, what is our role? When do we step in? Because we know we step in as security people when criminality has been established, and until it has been established, we don't really step in. But as a responsible public servant, I'll give you all the information I have about this. But as I said, because of the sensitivity of this, it's something I would like to give you, honorable members, in camera, not in an open session.
Sure.